I'm here with
How's it going?
with Jeremy Fabiano. This is a strange idea we had. It's called Pajama Author Party because basically I'm in a time zone where it's morning here, it's 7 o'clock, and you are in California. I'm in Italy. You're in California, and it's 10 o'clock at night. So I just got out of bed, and you're about to go into bed, so it's a pajama party.
That works. Got my Avengers shirt on.
That's something. You feel protected going to sleep in that, I guess, right?
Exactly.
Feel safe. All right, I see a bunch of stuff behind you, all sorts of notes and lists and stuff. Care to explain what that is?
So my son and I, he's 13, we co-write some of our stuff. We've been using mind maps a lot, but lately, even with the big 50-inch monitor, the mind maps have felt more constraining than they have been lately. So it's essentially the same size, but sideways.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a bunch of character profiles here. This is going to be a short story, so 20 chapters, 1,000 words a chapter, 20,000 words. So we got all the chapters, and we're starting to lay out the plot points. And then let me see if I can actually zoom in on some of this stuff. So on the right side, we have like all the character names and notes that we're coming up with, and just details so far. And then miscellaneous stuff for the stories that we've printed out or handwritten. So we're trying to see if doing it with the big paper, they do this at work, a lot of their meetings and stuff like that, and I kind of got the inspiration from that. So I'm basically trying to borrow a page from their book and see if there's some merit to trying this instead of the mind maps or in addition to the mind maps. So we're going to play it like this on this one. There's going to be 4 more stories, I think, in this little mini series that we're going to be doing. So we're going to try and mix and match each one with a different style and see which one worked most efficiently for us.
So I gather you've been experimenting with different systems, different methods for planning out a novel before writing it. Which one has been the most effective for you?
So far, the mind map. I used MindMeister. There's a bunch of different ones out there. I don't have any screenshots right now, but I can always send you some for later.
Mm-hmm.
They worked really good because you can just brain dump into it and then organize your thoughts on the screen and then link them all together in whatever order they need to link in. And then you just export the mind map. It's like thought bubbles, kind of like a brainstorm map.
Yeah.
And then you take that and you dump it in your bullet points in your manuscript. And then you just expand out each bullet point into a paragraph, then into a page, then into a chapter.
All right.
So, and it's really useful if you're doing like writing sprints. You don't, run out of content or, stuff like that.
I've tried. You told me about that mind mapping some time ago. I tried it. It just doesn't work for me. I just need my story to go on its own and decide what's next on it. So I like to be surprised by my own stories. If I have it all planned out, I don't want to go into it anymore because it's spoiled for me. I have a different kind of approach to it, I guess. So I never really know how it's going to end. I know it's how it starts, but no way to know how it ends because it's just not planned out yet.
Yeah, the other thing to keep in mind, though, is you can still be a pantser doing this. You can be like somewhat of a hybrid. So that's how I write my stories. A lot of my timelines are made in the mind maps. Just imagine it being a timeline where you have vague milestones. That'd be a good way to put it. And you say like, okay, so somewhere third way through the book, this major event has to happen, but nothing else around that event's plotted out. You just know that one event. So you still have
more
this
like me, big events and that's
exactly.
It. Okay.
So that's kind of how I write. I do the little plot points here and there, and then try to get it all lined up on the timeline. And then I try to figure out how the characters got from point A to point B. So that's where my surprise is at.
All right. Okay. So, and you mentioned writing sprints and so on. What happens when the sprints don't come? I mean, we are all, not just you and I, but everybody here is under kind of a bit of a stress. We're locked down. In my case, living with all of your family 24/7 all around you, I need silence, I need peace. And it's kind of tough for me to get down and actually write 1,000 words when I have to deal with stuff all the time. So what do you do when it just stops coming?
Well, you're kind of describing writer's block, but at the same time, I think there's 2 types of writer's block. There's the kind that everyone normally thinks about. You say writer's block, the first thing that comes to mind is my brain's empty, my brain's blank, there's no words to write down. I think more the kind of writer's block that you and I are experiencing right now is more of a stress-based one. The words are there, you just lack any kind of motivation to actually put them down on paper. And that's where I'm going. We're doing furlough flex days. Basically, they're cutting our hours by 25% at the hospital because they don't have the income that they normally would because of all the elective surgery shutdowns, countrywide. So all the hospitals are suffering for this, and they're trying to keep the doors open. So everyone's cutting their hours any way they can. So that's given me, in my first opinion, it was more writing time. I got 2 extra days off a week that normally I wouldn't have. And my son and I have been playing video games and stuff. I'm not doing my homework. I'm not writing as much as I should be.
Yeah,
it's literally started.
Hey, I've got time off writing Bonanza. Let's go. Let's write. And then it just, no, we'll do it later.
But, I've had the document open literally all day today. I think I wrote 52 words maybe, if I'm lucky.
Yeah,
and then after this call, I'm going to try to write another 50 or so, try to get, at least 100 in. But there is no motivation. Once you can get yourself writing, the writing is there. Mm-hmm. But it's not your typical writer's block where you just can't think of what happened next. It literally is you can't be bothered to write. And it's a big struggle, and a lot of writers are struggling with it, but there's a lot of writers also that are taking full advantage of it. I'm watching, like the 20 books to 50K group, and there's 25 the end posts in the last week alone. Wow. And I'm sitting there feeling kind of guilty about that because I should be finishing up my deadline and starting on this story or any of the other stories that I have, and they're just not coming at this point.
And of course the guilt adds on to the situation. You feel guiltier and guiltier, and you wind it down by playing video games and doing other stuff. Yeah. Guilt is just bad for you. If you feel guilty for not finishing the book, then you are going to do even less.
Exactly. And the other things that are having an effect on this, with all the COVID-19 stuff going on, is I started going to the gym in January, and I didn't miss a single day until the malls closed down last month, which I was going 2 to 3 days a week, and it was helping like crazy with the depression. Like the endorphin rush from working out and just bettering yourself. I lost 20 pounds, I think, over the course of 3 months.
Yeah, we kind of the opposite of what's happening now as we're locked down in the same house with our fridges.
Exactly. So I've been, trying to work out around the house. I got the dumbbells. I actually ordered some heavier dumbbells. They should show up sometime in May, apparently. I ordered them in March. So it's a non-essential item, so they're prioritizing it a little lower in the shipping manifest. But yeah, it's just like mowing the lawn with my son is not the same as going to the gym and being around those other people, that same energy, pretty much.
Right.
So a lot of that has a mental effect. So both of us have been struggling with that, and both of us are trying to fight our way out of that at the moment. But it's a struggle. So.
All right. So you said that project there is the next one. What are you working on? What are you not working on now?
What I'm not working on right now. So let me give a little bit of a history lesson first. So I put out my first book at the beginning of last year. It took 3 months to write it, which was shocking. It just flowed. Book 2, I came up. There was a character in book 1. Mm-hmm. She was there for 1 chapter, I think. She was just a little side character that wasn't supposed to be anything important. It was just somebody to save for the main party to to look cool and to save somebody and get experience for their quest. And what ended up happening is everyone who read that character, myself included, just absolutely loved the character. And that, of course, is Ashley, the 13-year-old fire mage. So going back through it, it was like everyone wanted that character to be in the next book and to be more important, to be part of the story. And I wrote this character that, in my opinion, was actually more developed than the main character of the story. The main character is purposely left a little underdeveloped so that the character could relate to it a little bit more. It's more encompassing, more generic, so it fits more of, different readerships and stuff. But Ashley was actually a better character, in my opinion, and I wanted to have that in there. So what I ended up doing is I wrote a parallel story, a little side story, that basically took her from where they meet her in chapter 6 or 7, wherever it's at, till when they go to the next town. There's another story that's going on in the background, and a whole bunch of stuff happens. There's a 24-hour period where she and a bunch of people have to survive to the next town while the spiders just lay waste to the entire countryside. Mm-hmm. Giant spiders, like truck-sized spiders, like not little daddy long legs and stuff.
Tolkien size spiders.
Exactly.
All right.
You know, the kind of stuff you find in World of Warcraft that you don't want to mess with.
Okay.
You know, like millions of them. They just slaughter everyone. So that little story is 17,700 words, I think. And so the mistake I made was I labeled it Book 2. Book 1 was 86,000 words. Book 2 was 17,700. And the sales charts just plummeted. Like, I zeroed out like 2 weeks after I posted that book up on Amazon. And like, I seriously thought maybe the story sucked. Maybe I wasn't as good of an author as I thought I was, or that people tell me I was. So fast forward 11 months. I'm at 20 books to 50K in November in Las Vegas. I'm a whole week straight with all of the authors that I've been talking to on Facebook. I meet 5 of my 7 favorite authors, which was absolutely surreal. There's videos all over Facebook if you search for 20 books. But so Friday night, everything's over. Saturday night, you know, my plane leaves Sunday morning. It's Mal Cooper, Tony Slater, and Robin Weidman. We're all sitting at the bar in Samstown. It's 2 in the morning, I think. And we get talking about what happened to my sales in book 2. And then, so we bring it up, and Tony's like, "What's your word count?" And I pull it up, and I show them, and they're like, "You labeled that book 2." And then Tony and Robin and Mal just look at me like, you know, like I just hatched out of an egg, basically. And Tony's like, "Mate, you can't do that. Like, you just cannot do that. Like, the readership is expecting a longer book for the second one, and you proclaim this as book 2, and you just pissed off a bunch of people. That's why your sales dropped."
Is this a page count, a question of page numbers?
Yeah, it's stupid, but I mean, if you look at the Harry Potter thing, every book is bigger than the last one, and that's what the readers expect. The more they get invested in the series, the more of the series that they want. And I didn't think about that when I labeled it as book 2. I could have labeled it as book 1.5, and yeah, I couldn't put it in the Amazon series because they don't want decimal numbers in the book numbers. But people would have been a lot more forgiving about that had I not labeled it book 2. So Robin and Tony had this idea almost at the same time, and they basically said, write a bunch of other stories to go into book 2 and then republish book 2 as it is. So now book 1's 86,000, book 2 is 94,000 words.
Holy cow.
And I'm not doing a ton of advertising, but the numbers are going up. The read-throughs up to almost 16%, which is a huge improvement over the 2% I had before. So right now I'm working on book 3, and that's the book I should be working on that I'm not. So a little bit of a long-winded trail, but so book 3 is sitting at 36,000 words right now. It's targeted to about 100,000. It just has to be, you know, bigger than 94, but I target for the nearest whole number, essentially, or nearest 100,000. So we'll see how that goes. Book 2's, all the stories ended up making a lot of foreshadowing, and it was a huge improvement over what I originally had in there planned. Because now I have, like, I don't want to give any spoilers, but there's a lot of new people, and they're all going to be at the end of book 3, including some faces that were in the prequel book, which is free on the mailing list. So there was a point in the story where Garstill goes nuts, and the main character asks about it, and he kind of gives like a half-assed explanation, but just drops the subject. This is pretty traumatizing to him. If you go back and read the prequel book, it's the entire story of what happened there and the creation of the game at the same time, or at least the neural interface that they're using for the game.
Because yours is a lit RPG.
Right. It's more game lit because I don't go super crunchy into the numbers. There's a lot of aspects of lit RPG and game lit both in it. So more like Ready Player One, Tron, Jumanji 2, those kind of still have that whole trapped in the game thing, but it was voluntary. So it kind of pulls it away from that lit RPG trope, because usually with that, it's more of you're trapped in it against your will and you have to survive, where this was more the guy was already dying and he was given another chance to live, basically.
Okay, all right. That's well, you have a lot of books published and out, and now you're stopping. I started with short stories actually, a long time ago, just for fun, because if I don't write, the characters start shouting and bickering in my head, asking to be let out, and it gets kind of embarrassing in front of people. So I had to start writing, and for the hell of it, I just saw if anybody else would care to read my short stories. And my first short stories were published with a minor publisher called S&H books. And after that, I had a half a manuscript hanging around, which my father started, which was basically set in Italy, historical fiction set in Italy in 1980. And I remember basically working on it with him because as he was researching this, I was a teenager, and we traveled across all of Italy interviewing people. So although the story that comes out in the end in the book, it is fiction, the characters are fictitious and so on, but the people they meet and the stories told by the people they meet, those are true. And so there's a lot of history in this. It's called The 45th Nail, and that was the first book that I actually published, which was co-written with my dad. It was something I was able to get published before he died, so he held the manuscript in his hands. It was quite a moment for him. And so, but I started off more as a short story person, and I have a few projects which are longer than a short story, and I'm finishing this one, which is called To Cipher and to Sing, which started as a side inspiration during another project I was doing, and I came out with about 27,000 words in 3 sittings with this one, because I just had it, most of it in my head without planning. It just kind of poured out. So now I'm kind of committed to finishing this, and I'm planning about 80,000 words, no more. And I'm more than convinced I'm doing the right thing now, since you told me that the next book should be more. And if I start high, then it's going to be harder to come up with more words. And this is actually planned out as book 1 of a series. It came out as something which is definitely a part of a setting, which is going to be a part of a premise of a longer series, which can be 3 or more books actually, because it has that potential. And it kind of neatly slides into the setting of the other project as well. So it is, this is science fiction, sci-fi, with a touch of humor, which is totally unintentional. Basically, I try to be serious and I fail. That's how it works with me. And so this one I'm writing is set just a few decades in the future. So the science fiction there is small things. People are starting to switch from mobile phones to implants. Video games are immersive, stuff like that. But it still feels like a lot of stuff you have today. You still have drone delivery. Okay, things like that are just still happening, and it's going to lead us towards the other project, which is set a few centuries in the future. So this is what causes, this is what happens in the next few years, which is going to cause the events which lead to the next series, which is so far in the future, spoiler, that it feels and sounds like fantasy.
I gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I've seen the couple snippets you've sent me of the original project, and I can't wait for you to finish that one. That one's going to be an incredible read, I think. So, yeah, I'm waiting for you on that one.
Okay, well, I'm working. And I wanted to talk about that because that is my solution right now. I'm working on that as a solution to writer's block. I have found 1 or 2 beta readers. And I find, in my case, that the feedback from beta readers saying, I can't wait for you to finish that, oh, give me another chapter, that is tremendously inspiring for me. It works so well. Or just telling me, I didn't get this right, could you write it better? It's not clear. Something like that just gets me working. It gets me wanting to write instead of binging on Star Trek, for example, or stuff like that. Do you have any beta readers? I gotta be careful about calling people out. I'm not gonna mention any names. So there was 14 people that originally agreed to beta read, and I gave them 3 weeks. Craig Martell gives 1 week on average from what I've noticed. I gave them 3 weeks just because, people have things to do and not everyone has the time, or not everyone's a whale reader and can read 6 books in a week. So a lot of people that I knew personally off my Facebook, they agreed to do it. I think half of them got halfway through the book. A lot of it wasn't their cup of tea. Some of them like more romance, horror, the usual
tropes that I'm not into. So a lot of them weren't able to complete the beta read on that. A couple of people got really close to the end, but they weren't able to finish by the deadline that I set for them, which I had to publish because I was on pre-order. So I didn't have time, but I did implement what feedback I could get from them. And I'm really thankful for that. But yeah, none of the beta readers of the 14 were able to actually complete in the 3-week period. So I've kind of given up on that. And like yourself and a few other people, my editor, my friend Jennifer Sowers, we go through and all of us send snippets back and forth as we complete things. We get really excited about a scene. We'll send it to the other person, be like, what do you think of this? And then we get feedback, whether it's good or bad, whether there's things that you could change or, it doesn't feel right or it's amazing, whatever the feedback happens to be. And you implement that right away. And it's like having a just-in-time beta reader without having a beta reading team. So other authors still can be really helpful in that regard.
Well, one of my starting experiences was in this writers circle. It was not really a Facebook group. It was more of just a bulletin board. And the most useful advice there was from people who really took your prose apart and just said, this, I don't get this. What are you saying here? This is so wrong. Yeah, what were you thinking when you wrote this? Really, they got me used to reading really negative criticism. And then they told me, this is what I think. You are free to accept it or not. You're the writer. It's a world in your head. This is how I interpreted it, but don't change it just because I said it. So it was interesting the way they came at you like wolves, really. They tore at you. And then they said, listen, wait a second. Don't just rewrite the whole thing because I'm not writing it, you're writing it. It's in your head. And that gave me a different sense of what I need for feedback. A question, Jeremy, where did you go and source your beta readers? Where did you get them from?
It's all Facebook, friends, family, friends of friends, that kind of thing. So that was it. I'm pretty introverted, so I don't really get out there and do stuff. Going to the 20 Books Vegas thing was the most terrifying and rewarding experience I've ever had the pleasure of being in, or the fear of being in. But that was terrifying. But I can't wait to go again. I'm hoping we don't cancel. I think they're deciding in July or something. But yeah, it's all Facebook, all friends and family. The people that you should not ask are the ones that I was asking.
Thinking that, yes.
So
I'm because of the experience I had, I'm very picky. I don't want people who will automatically say, hey, it's great, cool, man. Yes, my brother would say that, of course. And so I waited, actually. I started getting my beta readers after building pages, which this is the next topic, by the way. Tribe building. This was an idea that came from an amazing guy called Slaven Vujic, who is a marketer for authors. And he said, forget about putting Facebook ads on your profile page or on your author page. It just doesn't work. Facebook cuts the visibility of those by 90%. People don't look at them and people don't click on them unless you pay for Facebook ads, which is an expense. So he says, spend some time, build a tribe, make a Facebook page dedicated to authors that are similar to you in writing, and find people who like your sort of writing. And I created Book Lover's Guide to the Galaxy for that, because of Douglas Adams and funny science fiction. And I got 1,600 now likes on that. I'm starting one dedicated to Terry Pratchett, which is growing very quickly. And as a result of that now, people who like those are trickling down into my own author page. So these are people I don't know, really. They're not friends or family. They are fans of the genre. And I am not going to betray them by just plastering their Facebook page with my book ads. I'm just going to coax them into discovering that I write more or less in that genre, and that's where I just posted a link, a a text saying, "Hey, I'm looking for a few very courageous beta readers for a little project." I got 2 hits there, and very few and very select people whom have no obligation towards me in saying, "Hey, you write well" or anything. They can.
Yeah.
So whatever good feedback I get from them is really good. It's really precious. But I'm expecting anything from them. I'm ready for very negative feedback, which is as welcome as positive feedback. It pushes me along just the same.
And that brutal honesty really does make us better writers. It's hard to find that.
It does.
So.
And I have a group on Facebook where I invite writers to come along and share and criticize and say, I said it's in the rules. I said, before you ask for critique on your work, and make sure to specify what kind of critique are you ready to receive. Do you want, should it be gentle, or are you ready for anything? Fire away, because this is the sort of thing that an author should be ready for. Any kind of feedback is just gold.
Well, I would say any. There is one feedback I don't want, and that's the non-constructive criticism. That's you suck because I said you suck and no other reason. That's not.
That just comes in one ear and flies the other. I had one very negative rating on Amazon. One of the readers who read the 45th Nail, he ruined my 5-star streak. Damn him! It was 5 stars across the board, and he comes and gives me a 3-star or 2-star, whatever, because he said it was a farce. Of course.
Fiction.
Yeah. Well, this is historical fiction, and based on interviews, the real people who lived in World War II in Italy in the 40s, and this guy says it's a farce. Well, of course, I know exactly how much importance that opinion has for me. 0. I'm just buggered by the stars, but that's about it. Really,
well,
have some excellent reviews there. So that was, but still, it tickles at you, doesn't it?
Yeah, but if it makes you feel any better, I've read a lot of stuff saying that the 5-star rating actually hurts you more than like a 4.8 star because it's too perfect. People think you're paying your friends to give you reviews or stuff like that,
which I've never done. Usually, never pay for reviews.
Oh no, it's dirty. I mean, you don't want to go that because then you're only lying to yourself anyhow.
Right. Hey, I'm a great writer. Look, it's myself telling me so. Because of those few 3 stars ratings in basically, I think I don't have one 5-star book. It's all 4 point something, which is, it's just organic. It's fine. The writing is decent and people appreciate that. I'm an English teacher, so I do my own editing most of the time. So that's the first draft comes out kind of clean enough for me to not worry too much about the editing bit. Editing is always there. It's like 80% of the work is editing. We know it as writers. If you write 80,000 pages, it's going to be 10 times as much, reading them because you have to wean out all the dirty stuff.
I actually get yelled at by fellow authors because I write clean copy when I write. I don't do rewrites and the rewrites and the rewrites. When I write something out, I might go do like a second, like a lookover pass, just, try to pretty it up, put a little bows here and there where they need to be. But that's just the way I've always written. I don't like writing rough drafts. When I was in school, I always used to, get marked down for that because I can't stand rough drafts. If I'm going to write something, I'm going to write it once and I'm going to turn it in. And that's the same thing. When I ship something off to Kelly, my editor, I ship her the first copy that I wrote, and it's the best copy that I can write. So it's not like going back, I'm just going to break it. It's just like taking a test. You go back, you're going to second guess yourself. You're going to mess it up. And usually I tend to write pretty clean. And also, I have Grammarly and, the spell check and all that. You can't trust it 100%, but it catches all the silly commas. And, that's what kills me is commas and semicolons. So
Well, because you plan. In my case, not really planning much. I do go back and I do a sort of connect the dots game. I go back and tweak what somebody says so that you figure it out later. That's how I create my slow burners and long running jokes. It works a lot if you go back and then start it. It's a puzzle game.
Yeah, I don't write chronologically at all. Like I cannot write chronologically because I'll get bored of a section. Like I'll be writing something in chapter 3 and I'll get bored of it. I'll go write something in chapter 18 and all of a sudden I'll think of something really cool in chapter 18. It's like, all right, for this to happen, this other thing has to happen in the past. So I go back to chapter 3 and start figuring out where I can put it in.
So I have to try that. I'm more, because I don't plan, I'm more of a linear writer. I'm finding out what happens as I write it, so I'm more of a linear writer. But actually, I do have moments in where I'm stuck with a scene and say, oh my God, I want to go to the robot rebellion stuff or stuff like that. But I'm kind of afraid of leaving my own turf and not knowing my way back. I should try that. The worst case scenario is I just scratch the draft of the future bit. That's all.
Potentially. Or you might realize it's genius and you add stuff to make it even better.
Yeah, I realize it's genius every other day.
So, every time you write, it's always 50-50 whether it's going to be genius or trash. Yeah. And even trash, I don't scrap anything I write. I keep a scrap file. If there's a piece that was really good but it doesn't fit the story, I'll yank it out and use it somewhere else. There's stuff from book 1 that's in book 3. There's stuff from book 3 that ended up being ripped out and put in book 2 as I was rewriting it. So there's a lot. It's like Tetris. You just plug the pieces in where they fit and make sure that when people read it, it's always a game of just like working on a car or working on, in the wood shop, anything like that. Anything that anyone sees, when they look at it, you have to see the intention of what it's supposed to be. When you install a mod in your car, it better look like it comes from the factory that way, unless you're trying to stand out. Yeah. You want it to be flowing and you want it to join into the lines of the rest of the car. Otherwise, it looks like, somebody hit their thumb with a hammer.
Yes, of course. All right. All right. So I think we've worked out all of the points in our list of to-do things today. And this was just an experiment, actually, because we've never done this before. I mean, I've never done this before as a video recording with another author, a chat with another author, and I think it went well.
Yeah.
All right.
I enjoyed it.
We might do this again some other time. This was cool. All right.
Looking forward to it.
All right, so I will edit this, of course. I'm putting links for your stuff and my stuff in the end, just so people know what we were talking about during the talk here, the various web pages and such, and books on Amazon and so on. And let's have another pajama party soon.
Sounds good.
Okay.